we're trying to get the message out today, you the public, that this has nothing to do with the fault of the truck driver. There's a lot of safe truck drivers out there, and it's us, the safe truck drivers, that want to get that message to you that this is an absolute hazard on our highways. We have a couple more guests. I'd like to invite Rick Craig. Rick Craig is from the group OOIDA, Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association of the U.S., who also has their views pretty much paired with all the rest of us. Can I introduce Rick Craig?
Thanks, Scott. I'm going to take just a little bit different approach because I haven't driven a truck now for about 18 years, so I haven't been confronted with this particular problem of speed limiters. And these guys have to deal with it firsthand, as does the public have to deal with sharing the roads with trucks that become rolling roadblocks, and then of course we know the public out there always in a hurry, constantly whipping in and out of traffic. Environmental issues, certainly one of the things that's not being considered is the fact that yeah, you slow the trucks down, even if it's a truck that is geared so it runs in that optimum range. You've got all the cars that are constantly speeding up, slowing down, speeding up, and whipping around trucks and performing all kinds of dangerous acts. I have a bit of a prepared speech, so bear with me here. We've all heard the proponents of government-mandated speed limiters actively hawking the idea as a cure-all to improve highway safety, save fuel, and protect the environment. So obviously, we know the proponents behind the sham are the big carriers and their organizations, but we also know what their true motives are. The real inspiration for pushing mandatory speed limiter legislation has nothing to do with safety or the environment. Rather, it has everything to do with advancing the interests of large corporate motor carriers who desire to eliminate the competition for drivers and freight. Not only that, we predicted from the beginning that the charade was a PR ploy to set the stage for bigger and heavier trucks to be turned loose on Ontario's highways and then the rest of Canada. And sure enough, the Transportation Minister recently announced a longer combination vehicle trial program in Ontario to start this summer. Again, the supporters hype the so-called environmental benefits of LCVs, but we all know that's a farce. It's about cutting labor costs and appeasing the big shippers. Drivers that have to operate or share the road with LCVs know there will be serious negative consequences to the highway infrastructure, and as with speed limiters, safety will suffer greatly as well. On the matter of speed limiters, I won't get into a bunch of statistics or study results to counter all the proponents' claims. OOIDA and others have already provided all that to the Transportation Ministry and to lawmakers and other bureaucrats. And I won't get into detail about the negative impacts of speed limiters, like the potential to increase accidents, add to the problem of already congested highways, stifle competition, create a barrier to trade, and actually cause more fuel to be burned and increase harmful engine emissions. After all, I'd be speaking to the choir, right? But on the issues of studies, it is deeply concerning at this late date in the process, no action has yet been proposed by the ministry to look at the consequences of Bill 41. The most recent studies done here, conducted by Transport Canada, drew no real conclusions as to whether speed limiters provide any clear-cut advantages or disadvantages. To my knowledge, there has never been a study to benchmark the effects of speed limiting trucks in other countries either, such as the European countries that have imposed such requirements. I can tell you this much, drivers don't like them there any better than you. So why not study the effects? The government studies everything else to death, and are they afraid they'll find out they screwed up? And speaking of Europe, I have to say I get sick of hearing the big carrier interests pushing the latest and greatest schemes that far often end up costing you in one way or another, by cherry-picking elements of the European model that conveniently fit their perverted agenda while ignoring those things that may provide much more practical solutions. How about the European practices, for example, paying drivers for the hours they work, paying overtime for driving over 8 hours, paying extra for driving at night, providing 6-week paid vacations, And how about a graduated pay scale with automatic pay increases based on experience and providing extra pay when crossing international borders? Just think if the big companies, the big corporate carriers, were to fully apply the European system, virtually all the hours of service violations, driver recruitment and retention problems, health and welfare problems, driver and pay inequities would be solved. At the same time, the incentive for drivers to exceed the speed limit or violate other laws would be eliminated. But instead, the carriers want it both ways. Get the taxpayers to foot the bill and the state, so to speak, to manage their driver responsibilities and keep drivers barefoot and ignorant. Out of all the things that go in or on a truck, the safest and most efficient possible component is simply a well-trained and experienced driver. Instead of chasing after the newest gadgets and begging the government to solve the recruiting and retention problems, carriers should consider just paying and treating drivers better. I find it reprehensible that the big carrier interests have exploited the good intentions of those who are truly concerned with improving the environment and increasing the level of safety on Ontario's highways. I find it appalling how they continue to attempt to dupe well-intentioned lawmakers with their self-serving agenda. It's inexcusable how they continue to attempt to shift their operational responsibilities and liabilities away from themselves and further burden law enforcement and ultimately you, the taxpayer. The speed limiter requirement is unsafe and unnecessary. It's based on irrational, irresponsible, and misleading assertions, and it only serves to inject yet more government intrusion into your daily lives. You need to let your MPPs know the truth about how Bill 41 is affecting you personally and professionally by writing letters, sending emails, making phone calls. The July 1 deadline for full enforcement to begin is almost here. But don't give up. Never say die. There are too many lawmakers on your side. We know several lawmakers on your side. And with determination and perseverance, anything can be accomplished, including getting this outrageous law repealed.